The Shark Deck.
Hello and welcome to Palace Intrigue. I am your host, Mark Francis. The Daily Mail reports Harry and Meghan wanted to ride back to the United States on Air Force One after the Queen's funeral, but the request was denied by the White House in case it caused a commotion. It was an immediate no from the Americans. Sources with knowledge of the decision said there was barely any discussion on the issue, just a general agreement that the request was a non-starter. A source said it would have caused such a commotion, it would have strained relations with the palace and the new king. The Mail also shares that months earlier, First Lady Jill Biden was invited to attend Harry's Invictus Games, but the idea was killed amid concerns that the royal family may have been offended by her presence there. The Mail analyses that both the failed initiatives are understood to have been part of a campaign by the Sussexes to gain political influence in the US as they settled into life in California. Meghan publicly advocated for paid family leave to lawmakers on Capitol Hill and worked behind the scenes to connect with the Bidens. Royal commentator Daniela Elsa said the request sounded like a full-fat Sussex ploy. They might have flown the royal coupe, but they still seem to think they should be entitled to the beneficial, shiny bits of official royal working life. Royal commentator Phil Dampier added, "We don't see them with the Obamas anymore. We don't see them with Oprah anymore." Joe Biden's very happy to pull strings in the background concerning Harry's visa, but he is actually quite close to King Charles. They see eye to eye on things like climate change. If he wants to have a second term, he's got to have better relations with him. Margaret Hartman, writing for The New Yorker, doesn't think the Air Force One story adds up. Hartman writes, "Let's say Harry and Meghan actually are so clueless and entitled that they don't care about transatlantic relations or their own PR. The ask still wouldn't make sense logistically. Meghan and Harry live in Montecito. The Bidens live in Washington, D.C. Was the plan to land on the East Coast, then hitch a ride back to California with another famous pal? Take a taxi from Andrews Air Force Base to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport and hop on a commercial flight?" The timing of the flights doesn't make sense either. President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden attended the Queen's funeral service at Westminster Abbey, which ended at noon on Monday, September 19. Air Force One departed London a short time later at 2:30, but for Harry and Meghan, the day didn't end with the funeral. They also attended the 4 p.m. committal service at St. George's Chapel, which was followed by a private burial. In Spare, Harry says he and Meghan left for America on Tuesday afternoon and were anxious about being away from their 3-year-old and 1-year-old for longer than we'd ever been. They reportedly took a British Airways flight from London Heathrow to Los Angeles and were shuttled home in a Lincoln SUV. Is it possible that Harry and Meghan actually did ask Biden for a ride as they were scrambling to change their travel arrangements? I suppose so, but I have a hard time believing that the royal couple is actually this illogical, conniving and monstrous, and that it took nearly a year for this juicy gossip to get out. The Mirror reports Meghan and Harry were forced to call off a 4th of July party at the last minute after all the recent bad press about their media deals. A source says they had a huge party planned at their home, which they cancelled just 3 days out. The source told New Magazine that the couple had erected gazebos for the party, but they were taken down when Meghan instructed the planners to call it off. They claim guests were left shocked by the cancellation. Palace Intrigue will be right back. Hey, I'd like to tell you about one of our wonderful sponsors, and that's ExpressVPN. And stay with me so you can find out how to get 3 months free. Now, ExpressVPN is an app you use when you're online, and it creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so hackers can't steal your data. You know how when you go on incognito mode and the fine print says your activity may be visible to your school or employer? Well, what's the point of incognito if they can see you? You need to do what I do and use ExpressVPN. Anytime you use unsecured or unencrypted public Wi-Fi, like a coffee house or airport or even your parents' home, the activity can be logged by the admin's site. And in the US, they can even sell that to advertisers. ExpressVPN encrypts all your data so your private life stays private and you stay much more anonymous. So do what I do and use ExpressVPN. Stop letting strangers invade your online privacy. Protect yourself at expressvpn.com/palace. Use my link at expressvpn.com/palace to get 3 extra months free. That's ExpressVPN, EXPRESSVPN. gmail.com/palace to learn more.
Hey, it's Jordan Ross Myers, the man behind Twitter's notorious Lee Radswell and Don Gunvalson. I'm inviting you to join me every week for the Pretty Corrupt podcast. Along with my co-host, reality casting director Stacey Noel Connor, and disgraced entertainment TV producer Nate Safer, we probe the dark crevices of Hollywood, taking you inside the scandals of society's rich and infamous. Everything is fair game on the Pretty Corrupt podcast. Every Tuesday on all streaming platforms and at storicmedia.com.
Is Charles simply the filler king? Some look to the heavy presence of William and Kate at the Scottish coronation for clues. Royal watcher Kinsey Schofield, speaking on the Majesta podcast, said, "I do think that this is the king giving us a wink. He was saying that this is me acknowledging the future, and I think it's hopeful. I think it was beautiful." Co-host royal commentator Christo Fufus said, "I think this is also Charles saying I'm not going to be around for long. I don't want to be morbid, but I think that his reign will be much more about William and Kate. I think that their reign will be much more about handing over the baton already. Because you remember the Queen didn't really take a step back that much until much later on in her reign." Schofield believes the new Fab Four are the King and Queen, William and Kate. I think this will be the new Fab Four. King Charles is in a really difficult position because imagine anyone having to take over after Queen Elizabeth. It's going to be incredibly difficult, and what he's doing is almost saying, look, it's going to be so seamless. You're going to see so much of the Prince and Princess of Wales that actually this is barely going to be a transition. It's just going to be consistency and stability and continuation of the monarchy, and I think people will like Charles for that. The Mirror's royal editor Russell Meyer agrees. Charles is a king, monarch. He deserves the reverence of the late Queen in the same job almost, but it just doesn't feel like that, does it? Because we know this guy. It's almost like he's not necessarily filling in, but he's almost like the sandwich filling between the Queen and Prince William. And there you have it. If you'd like to email us, our address is thepalaceintrigue@gmail.com. Please head on over to youtube.com and just do a search for Palace Intrigue and hit the subscribe button there. You don't have to listen to the show, but we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers and spread the word about Palace Intrigue. Anything you can do is much appreciated. I'm Mark Francis. My thanks to John McDermott. This is Palace Intrigue and good times. Hi, I'm Mark Francis and host of a new podcast, The Messi Effect. Join us as we take you into the exciting new world of Argentine soccer phenomenon, Lionel Messi, and his new life at Inter Miami. Will bring you into the glitz, the glamour, the star-studded events, along with the exciting journey to a new world of U.S. soccer and international football with news and stories 3 times a week. Come along for the ride as Messi, Miami, and Major League Soccer experience the journey of a lifetime. Get the Messi Effect wherever you get your podcasts.